Lena never removed her armor. Not once. Not during rest hours, not during repairs, not even when the base lights dimmed and most beings slept. The heavy plates covered her from neck to foot, dark metal shaped by old designs and older beliefs. The armor was thick, layered, and marked with symbols worn smooth by time. It was part of her, or at least that was how she lived. To her people, armor meant honor. Meant safety. It meant duty fulfilled without question. From the moment Lena had been old enough to stand, she had been taught that armor was more than protection. It was a promise. A promise to stand firm, to endure, and to never show weakness. Removing it without reason was shameful. Removing it in front of others was unthinkable. So Lena wore it always. She walked through the shared station halls with slow, steady steps. The metal plates moved with soft, heavy sounds, like distant thunder held close to the body. Other beings stepped aside when she passed, not out of fear but respect. They knew what her armor meant. They knew what she represented. Lena never complained. Not about the weight, not about the heat, not about the way the armor pressed into her joints after long missions. Pain was expected. Silence was praised. She had learned early that endurance was the highest form of strength. Alex noticed all of this. Alex was a human engineer assigned to the same station. He worked on power systems, doors, and repair units. His job kept him moving through many parts of the station, often near the training areas and docking bays where Lena spent much of her time. He was not a soldier. He was not trained for combat. He fixed things when they broke. The first time Alex saw Lena, he thought she was a walking machine. The armor was so complete that it hid almost every sign of the person inside. Only her eyes were visible through a narrow opening. They were dark and steady, always watching. The rest of her face remained unseen, locked behind metal and tradition. At first, Alex did not think much about it. Different species, different customs. That was normal in space. He had learned that quickly. What mattered was doing his job and staying respectful. But over time he began to notice details. He noticed how Lena never sat fully down. She rested by leaning against walls or standing still. He noticed how she moved more slowly at the end of long days. He noticed the faint pause before she climbed stairs, as if each step cost more than the last. He noticed the armor. It was thick. Thicker than most combat gear he had seen. The plates overlapped in ways that limited movement. The inner joints were reinforced, but even reinforced metal had limits. Alex understood machines. He understood weight and strain. And every time he saw Lena move, his mind counted forces without asking permission. That armor is too heavy, he thought more than once. To Lena these thoughts were meaningless. She did not see her armor as heavy. It was simply there. Like skin. Like bone. It had always been part of her life. When she woke, it was on her. When she slept, it was on her. She did not remember what it felt like to exist without it. Her people believed that armor shaped the warrior, not the other way around. The weight was meant to remind them of duty. The pressure was meant to keep the mind focused. Comfort was seen as a path to carelessness. Lena believed this. Or at least she had never questioned it. During joint missions, Alex often worked nearby, fixing damaged doors or stabilizing power lines while Lena and others stood guard. He watched how she positioned herself between danger and others without hesitation. He saw her absorb impacts that would have knocked most beings down. He respected her skill and discipline. Still he worried. One day, while repairing a panel near the training floor, Alex saw Lena standing alone. She was perfectly still, facing a blank wall. For a moment he thought she might be asleep standing up. Then he noticed the slight tremble in one of her arms. Just barely there. So small it could have been missed. Alex hesitated. He was not supposed to speak to warriors unless necessary. Different roles, different rules. But something about that moment pushed him forward. "You okay?" he asked, keeping his voice low and calm. Lena turned her head slowly. Her eyes focused on him through the narrow opening of her helmet. She said nothing for a moment. "I am fine," she replied. Her voice was steady. Controlled. Honest in the way she understood honesty. Alex nodded. "All right." He returned to his work, but the image stayed with him. The slight tremble. The way her shoulders never fully relaxed. The way the armor never came off. To Lena, Alex was just another human. Soft-bodied, lightly protected, always surrounded by tools instead of weapons. Humans were strange that way. They relied on machines, on each other, on systems that broke and were fixed again. They seemed fragile, yet they moved with ease. She did not understand how they lived without constant armor. To her, it looked dangerous. Exposed. Wrong. Yet she noticed Alex too. She noticed how he worked long hours without complaint. How he fixed problems that others ignored. How he spoke with patience even when things went wrong. He did not wear armor, yet he did not act afraid. That confused her. Armor meant safety. That was truth. But here was someone with none, moving through danger with calm focus. At night, when the station grew quiet, Lena stood at her assigned post and listened to the distant hum of engines. The armor pressed against her, familiar and heavy. She felt tired, but she did not shift. She did not remove a single piece. Somewhere nearby, Alex finished a late repair and glanced down the hall. He saw her standing there, silent and unmoving, a figure of metal and duty. To her people, armor meant honor and safety. To Alex it looked painfully heavy. And neither of them yet knew how much that difference would matter. The mission had lasted longer than planned. What was meant to be a short patrol turned into hours of tension, alarms, and movement through damaged corridors. Lena had led the way as she always did, her heavy armor absorbing heat, force, and impact meant to protect the others behind her. She did not slow down. She did not fall back. She did what she was trained to do. By the time they returned to the station, the lights were dim and the halls were quiet. Most of the crew went to rest, their tasks complete. Lena walked alone toward her assigned area, each step measured and steady. To anyone watching, she looked the same as always. Strong. Unbroken. But inside the armor, something was wrong. A sharp pain ran through her shoulder each time she moved her arm. Her breathing was shallow, careful. The armor had taken a direct hit during the mission, one that should have been absorbed without issue. But the force had pushed the inner frame out of place. The metal pressed into muscle and joint, grinding slightly with every movement. Lena noticed. Of course she did. She told herself it was nothing. Pain was expected. Damage happened. Warriors endured. She had endured worse before. The armor would hold. It always did. She reached her quarters and stood still, waiting for the pain to pass. It did not. Instead it grew sharper. Her strength felt wrong, like her arm was no longer fully hers. She tried to raise it higher and failed. The armor resisted her movement, locking her in place. Lena remained silent. Her culture taught that injury was private. Weakness was not shown. Asking for help, especially with armor, was a sign of failure. The armor was sacred. It was not removed unless ordered. It was never removed in front of outsiders. Especially not humans. She stood there for a long time, listening to the faint hum of the station. Her thoughts slowed. She focused on control. She told herself she could wait. She always waited. But then she remembered something Alex had once said while fixing a power unit nearby. If a system stays damaged too long, he had said, it causes more damage later. At the time she had not understood why he said it so casually. Now, the words returned to her with uncomfortable clarity. The armor was damaged. And it was damaging her. Lena tried one more time to move her arm. Pain shot through her shoulder, stronger than before. Her breath caught. She tightened her jaw, refusing to make a sound. For the first time since she could remember, fear slipped past her control. Not fear of pain. Fear of being trapped. She stood there, armored and alone, and faced a truth she had never allowed herself to consider. She could not fix this by herself. And if she waited too long, the damage might become permanent. Her thoughts turned to the station's medical team. Then she dismissed them. Medical care required armor removal. That was forbidden unless overseen by her own people, under strict rules. None of them were nearby. Requesting emergency approval would take time she did not have. Her gaze shifted toward the corridor. Toward the engineering section. Toward Alex. The idea felt wrong the moment it formed. Trusting a human with her armor was unthinkable. He did not know her customs. He did not understand the meaning behind the metal. He was an outsider in every sense. But he was also careful. Patient. He noticed things others ignored. And he was nearby. Lena stood still, fighting the conflict inside her. Every lesson she had learned pushed her to endure. Every instinct told her to stay silent. But the pain grew worse, and with it came the fear that silence might cost her more than pride. Finally, she made her decision. Alex was in the engineering bay when he heard the sound of heavy steps outside. He looked up from his tools, expecting a routine patrol check or a passing guard. Instead, he saw Lena standing in the doorway. She did not step inside. She just stood there. Something was wrong. Alex knew it immediately. Lena never came to engineering unless assigned. She never lingered. She never hesitated. Now she hesitated. "Hey," Alex said gently, setting his tools aside. "Everything okay?" Lena did not answer right away. Her eyes remained fixed forward. She looked rigid more than usual. Alex noticed the slight tilt of her armor, the way one shoulder sat lower than the other. He felt a knot form in his stomach. "I am injured," Lena said finally. The words were quiet, controlled, but they carried weight. Alex stood up slowly. "Do you need medical help?" She shook her head just slightly. "Medical requires removal." Alex frowned. "Removal of the armor?" "Yes." He hesitated. He knew enough to understand that was serious. "Is that allowed?" "No." Silence filled the room. Alex did not push. He waited. Lena's hands clenched at her sides. She had faced enemies without fear, but this moment felt harder than any battle. Asking for help went against everything she believed about strength. "I cannot remove it myself," she said. "The inner frame is damaged. It is harming me." Alex took a slow breath. "Okay," he said. "What do you need?" Lena turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting his. There was something in them he had never seen before. Vulnerability. Uncertainty. "I need help," she said. The words felt heavy in the air. Alex did not speak at first. He understood the weight of what she was asking. This was not a simple repair. This was trust at its most fragile point. "Lena," he said carefully, "I don't want to break any rules." "You would be helping me survive," she replied. That was all she said. But it was enough. Alex nodded once. "I'll do whatever you say," he told her. "You tell me what to touch. You tell me when to stop." Lena closed her eyes for a brief moment. When she opened them, there was resolve there, mixed with fear. "Close the door," she said. Alex did as asked. The engineering bay felt smaller now, quieter. The hum of machines seemed distant. Lena stood in the center of the room, armored and tense. This space was not designed for warriors removing sacred gear. It was full of tools, cables, and metal benches. Ordinary. Human. She had never felt so exposed. "You must move slowly," she said. "The locks are here and here." She indicated with careful movements, limited by pain. Alex listened closely. He did not rush. He asked questions. He waited for her answers. Each step was guided by her words. As he worked, Lena focused on her breathing. Each sound of metal shifting sent a shock through her body, but also a strange sense of relief. For the first time, the armor was not controlling the moment. Alex noticed how careful she was, how much effort it took her to trust him. He realized that this act meant more to her than any battle they had shared space around. Piece by piece the process began. And with it, something between them changed forever. The room felt quiet in a way that made every sound stand out. The soft hum of machines, the low vibration of power lines behind the walls, and the slow, careful sound of Alex's breathing all seemed louder than before. Lena stood in the center of the engineering bay, her armored form rigid and unmoving. The heavy plates still covered her body, but now they felt different. Not like protection. Like a cage. Alex stood a short distance away, his hands empty, his posture careful. He did not step closer right away. He waited. "Tell me where to start," he said. Lena lifted her injured arm slightly, then stopped when pain flared. She steadied herself. "There is a release near the shoulder joint," she said. "Under the outer plate." Alex nodded. "May I touch the plate?" The question surprised her. She had expected him to move without asking, the way technicians often did with machines. Armor was treated as equipment. Warriors were expected to endure whatever was needed to keep it functional. But Alex waited, his hands still at his sides, eyes focused but calm. "Yes," Lena said. He moved closer, slowly, giving her time to react. His movements were careful, not because he feared her, but because he respected the space between them. When his fingers touched the armor, it was light, almost hesitant. He followed her instructions exactly, sliding his hand along the edge of the plate until he found the hidden release. "Here?" he asked. "Yes." "May I open it?" She paused, then nodded. The lock released with a soft sound. The outer plate shifted slightly, easing some of the pressure on her shoulder. Lena let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. The relief was small but real. Alex stepped back. "How does that feel?" "Better," she said quietly. He waited again. They continued this way, one step at a time. Alex never rushed. He never assumed. Every movement was preceded by a question. Every action followed by a pause, giving Lena control over the pace. "Is it okay if I move this piece? Do you need a break? Tell me if it hurts more." Each question chipped away at the tension Lena carried. She had expected fear, the way others reacted to her armor. Or judgment, the way some outsiders looked at her kind, seeing only warriors and weapons. She expected discomfort, maybe even resentment at being asked to help with something so serious. She did not expect respect. As more plates were removed, the weight on her body began to lessen. The armor came away piece by piece, placed carefully on a nearby bench. Alex handled each section as if it mattered, setting it down gently instead of dropping it like scrap metal. Lena felt exposed with every piece removed. Not just physically but emotionally. This armor had been her shield since youth. Without it, she felt uncertain, almost unbalanced. Yet she also felt lighter, freer. When Alex reached the damaged inner frame, he stopped. "This part is bent," he said softly. "It's pressing into you." "Yes," Lena replied. "That is where the pain is strongest." "May I adjust it?" She hesitated. This part of the armor was closest to her body. Letting him work there meant allowing him closer than anyone outside her people had ever been. She met his eyes. "Yes." Alex moved even more slowly now. His hands were steady but his focus was sharp. He worked carefully, loosening the damaged section just enough to relieve the pressure. Lena winced, but the pain faded quickly, replaced by a deep sense of relief. She sagged slightly. Alex noticed immediately. "I've got you," he said, stepping closer without touching her. "Do you need support?" "I can stand," she said, though her voice was weaker now. He nodded. "All right. I'm here." As the final pieces came away, Lena was left standing without the armor that had defined her for so long. Her body felt strange. Lighter but also vulnerable. She wrapped her arms around herself without thinking. Alex took a step back, giving her space. He did not stare. He did not comment. He simply waited. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Lena expected to feel shame. She expected to feel judged. She expected to see something change in Alex's expression now that she was no longer hidden behind steel. She saw none of that. His face showed the same calm focus it always had. The same quiet concern. To him this was not a spectacle. It was care. "You did well," he said, not as praise but as fact. Lena looked at the armor laid out on the bench. For the first time she saw it not as honor but as weight. Necessary perhaps. But heavy. "Thank you," she said. Alex nodded. "You trusted me." That was true. And it mattered more than she had words for. They stood there in silence, the bond between them no longer built on duty or distance, but on something quieter and stronger. Respect. Without the armor, Lena felt strange. The weight that had pressed against her body for so many years was gone, and the absence of it felt almost unreal. She stood still for a moment, afraid that if she moved too quickly, the feeling would disappear. Her body felt lighter but not weak. It felt like she could finally breathe all the way in. The room was quiet. The armor lay in careful rows on the bench, silent and still. For the first time, Lena saw how much space it took up, how much of her life it had filled. Standing without it made the room feel larger and at the same time, made her feel smaller. Not in a bad way. Just different. Alex stayed nearby but did not crowd her. He leaned against a work table, giving her space, his eyes lowered in respect. He understood that this moment was not about fixing metal anymore. It was about what came after. Lena slowly sat down on a low bench. Her movements were careful, as if she was learning how to use her body again. The ache in her shoulder was still there, but it was dull now, no longer sharp. She rested her hands on her knees and looked at them for a long time. "They feel lighter," she said quietly. Alex nodded. "Your body's been carrying a lot." She let out a soft breath that almost sounded like a laugh, though there was no humor in it. "More than I realized." She sat there in silence for a while. Alex did not rush her. He knew from experience that silence was sometimes the safest space to speak from. Machines could be fixed quickly. People could not. Lena's thoughts moved slowly, like water finding a new path. Without the armor, memories rose more easily. She remembered her early training, the first time the armor was placed on her shoulders. She had been proud. Everyone had watched. Her family had stood tall. The weight had hurt even then, but she had not complained. "It was never meant to be comfortable," she said, as if answering a question no one had asked. Alex looked at her. "What wasn't?" "The armor. The duty." "Any of it," Lena said. "Comfort makes you forget what you are." Alex thought about that for a moment. "Or it reminds you that you're still alive." She glanced at him, surprised. "Your people believe that?" "Some do," he said. "Some forget." Lena looked away again. She felt exposed, not just because her armor was gone, but because the thoughts she had kept locked away now felt close to the surface. She had never spoken them aloud. Not to her people. Not to herself. "When I wear the armor," she said slowly, "no one asks how I feel. They see the metal, not me. It makes things simple." Alex nodded. Simple doesn't always mean easy. No, she agreed. It means lonely. The word hung in the air. Lena swallowed. She had never said that before. Loneliness was not something warriors spoke of. Warriors stood watch. Warriors protected. Warriors endured. Feelings were private things, meant to be controlled and hidden just like pain. I stand guard while others rest, she continued. I lead missions. I take the first strike. That is my place. But when it is over, I return alone. Always alone. Alex listened. He did not interrupt. He did not offer quick answers. He let her words settle. I thought that was strength, Lena said. Standing alone. Needing nothing. Alex shifted slightly, folding his arms loosely. On my world, he said, we tried that too. It didn't work. She looked at him again. Why? Because no one lasts forever by themselves, he replied. Even the strongest systems need support. Power grids fail if they're isolated. So do people. Lena considered this. My people would say needing support is weakness. Alex shook his head. I'd say refusing it is. The words were simple, but they struck something deep inside her. She felt a quiet ache in her chest, different from pain. It was the ache of realizing something important had been missing. She leaned back slightly, resting against the wall. The cool surface felt strange against her skin. She closed her eyes. I did not know how heavy it was, she admitted. Not just the armor. Everything. Alex spoke softly. You don't have to carry it all at once. She opened her eyes. I don't know how not to. That's okay, he said. You don't have to know right away. They sat together in silence again. It was not uncomfortable. It felt shared. Lena looked at the armor on the bench. My people will say this moment should not have happened. Alex shrugged lightly. Some moments matter because they weren't supposed to. She smiled faintly. It was small, uncertain, but real. I trusted you, she said. Alex met her gaze. I know. No one else has ever seen me like this, Lena continued. Without armor. Without orders. I won't tell anyone, Alex said immediately. She shook her head. That is not what I mean. She struggled to find the words. I mean, you did not turn away. You did not treat me as less. Alex thought about that. Why would I? Because without the armor, she said, I am just a person. He smiled gently. That's usually who I'm talking to. Something inside Lena loosened then, a tension she had carried for so long she had stopped noticing it. She realized that strength did not disappear when the armor came off. It changed shape. It became something quieter, something shared. She straightened slightly. If my people see me like this, she said, they may question my place. Alex nodded. Change tends to do that. She took a slow breath. I think I am ready for that. Alex looked at her with calm respect. You don't have to face it alone. The words settled between them, warm and steady. Lena stood up slowly. Without the armor, her movements felt easier, more natural. She felt balanced in a way she hadn't felt in years. She looked at Alex, really looked at him, not as an engineer or an outsider, but as someone who had shared a moment of truth with her. Our bond, she said carefully, it is different now. Alex nodded. Yeah, it is. It was not built on duty or rank. It was not forged in battle. It was built in quiet, in patience, in respect. Stronger than steel because it did not weigh her down. And for the first time in a very long while, Lena felt ready to step forward without armor, knowing she was not alone. Lena stood at the entrance of the gathering hall and paused. She felt the cool air against her skin, a feeling she still was not used to. Her armor rested in her quarters, repaired but untouched. For the first time since she had become a warrior, she had chosen not to wear it. Her recovery was not complete. Her shoulders still ached when she moved too fast. But her body was healing, and so was something deeper inside her. The elders had asked her to appear before her people, to show that she was alive, that the mission had ended, that order remained. They had not told her how to appear. So she chose. She stepped forward without armor. The hall slowly fell silent as people noticed. Warriors, elders, and civilians turned their eyes toward her. Some gasped quietly. Others stiffened. A few looked away, unsure if it was proper to look at her like this. Lena walked with calm steps, her head held high, her hands relaxed at her sides. She felt exposed, but she did not feel weak. Whispers spread like a soft wind through the hall. Armor was more than protection to her people. It was identity. It was history. To stand without it was to challenge everything they believed about strength. Lena stopped at the center of the hall. She did not bow. She did not apologize. She stood. The elders watched her closely. Their faces showed surprise, concern, and something else Lena had rarely seen in them before. Curiosity. One elder stepped forward. "You appear without armor," he said. "Yes," Lena replied calmly. "This is unusual during recovery," another elder said. "I am aware," Lena answered. The silence stretched. Lena could feel every eye on her. Her heart beat steadily, not fast, not slow. She remembered the quiet room in engineering. She remembered Alex's voice, calm and steady. "You don't have to carry it all at once. I stand before you as I am," Lena said. Alive. Healing. Honest. A ripple of emotion moved through the hall. Some warriors shifted their weight. Others straightened. They were trained to read posture, to sense intent. What they saw now did not fit any lesson they had learned. "You were injured," an elder said. "Your armor failed." "Yes," Lena said. "And it saved me. But it also harmed me." That caused louder murmurs. Armor was not meant to be spoken of that way. Lena continued, her voice firm but clear. "I was taught that armor is strength. That wearing it without rest proves devotion. I believe that. I lived that." She paused, letting the words settle. "But I also learned that strength is not only what we carry," she said. "It is knowing when to set something down." The hall grew quiet again. Not tense this time. Listening. Lena looked around, meeting the eyes of warriors she had fought beside. Some looked shocked. Some looked thoughtful. A few looked relieved, as if they had been waiting for someone else to speak first. "I am still a warrior," Lena said. "I am not less without armor. I am still loyal. Still capable. Still willing to protect." She placed a hand over her chest. "But I will no longer pretend that pain is proof of honor." The elders exchanged glances. This was not rebellion. This was not defiance. It was something harder to dismiss. Courage. When Lena finished, no one spoke right away. Then, slowly, one warrior stepped forward. Then another. They did not speak. They simply stood beside her. Not in formation. In support. Alex watched from the far side of the hall. He had stayed out of sight just as he preferred. This was Lena's moment, not his. He felt a quiet pride mixed with relief. She was standing on her own terms now. That was all he had hoped for. The elders did not punish her. They did not praise her either. They listened. And for Lena's people, listening was the first step toward change. Later, when the gathering ended, Lena found Alex near the station exit. He had already packed his tools. His work assignment was complete. "You're leaving?" Lena said. "Yes," Alex replied. "My ship departs soon." She nodded slowly. "You did not stay for recognition." Alex smiled slightly. That was never the point. They stood together for a moment, watching the steady movement of the station. Life continued as it always did. But something had shifted. "You helped me when you did not have to," Lena said. "You risked much." Alex shrugged lightly. "You trusted me first." She met his eyes. "I will remember that." "So will I," he said. They did not embrace. They did not make promises. They did not need to. The bond between them was quiet, steady, and real. Alex boarded his ship and left without ceremony. Lena returned to her recovery, stronger each day. Sometimes she wore her armor. Sometimes she did not. Others began to do the same. Slowly. Carefully. The change did not happen all at once, but it happened. Across the stars, stories traveled. They spoke of humans who listened before acting. Who asked before touching. Who stepped forward not to command, but to protect. They spoke of a species that understood something many had forgotten. Trust was not taken. It was earned. And among the stars, humanity earned a simple truth. They protect trust as carefully as life.